Hi, and welcome to the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinsko, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, speaker, and general explorer when it comes to customer and employee experience. I'm really interested in figuring out what it takes to build organizations that produce better outcomes for both customers and employees. So with that in mind, I seek out and interview CEOs, entrepreneurs, business and tech leaders, authors and academics to uncover some clues about what it takes to build such an organization. Now, some of you may know the podcast as the Rare Business Podcast, but I decided to rename and rebrand the podcast recently. This is for a number of reasons. First one was to mirror the title of my book, Punk CX, which was published in June 2019. Two, because I'm a fan of punk music. And three, it's just more fun, right? Anyway, if this is your first time listening to one of these interviews, then hello and welcome. And please do dive into the archives at adrianswinsko.com, as I've now completed over 300 of these interviews in the last few years. If this is not your first time listening, then welcome back and thank you. Anyway, that's enough for me right now. Let's get into the interview. So welcome to the next edition of the podcast. With me today, I have Adam Weinberg, who is the brand director across at Haven Life. Hey, Adam, how are you doing?
Doing well, Adrian. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Now, Adam, for the benefit of people that are not familiar with you, i.e., because your granny might be listening to this, or your mum, or your daughter, or your dog, or somebody.
They definitely are, for sure.
Oh, awesome. So we've got a built-in audience already, so we're not speaking into the vacuum, which is great. Always good to know. Tell us a bit about you and a bit about the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I'm the brand director at Haven Life, and Haven Life is a digital life insurance agency that's backed and wholly owned by MassMutual, and we sell term life insurance online, direct to consumer. We were one of the first to do that. So my focus as the brand director is really around changing the conversation and purchasing experience that people have with life insurance. Typically, you think life insurance, that's a conversation that's going to be about death, and we got to plan out a time to have this conversation, and we're going to put it off for a while because it's unpleasant. Really, when you get down to it, our belief is that it can be something that you can both feel good about and celebrate it. It's really, the reason you need life insurance is because you had a baby, you got married, you bought your first home, you got engaged. I mean, the best moments of people's lives. So that's kind of how we are positioning life insurance now.
Awesome. And I think, but the thing that's interesting for me, because I focus on, service and experience and how to, ultimately, how do we build organizations that deliver better outcomes for both their customers and their people. Mm-hmm. But I hear that across at Haven Life, you're getting this reputation for being obsessed with kind of customer experience, and you've got this overall mission to make life less hard. Yeah. So I was thinking, well, that's really kind of cool. But then I saw some of the numbers, and whilst I'm not, I'm not so hard on kind of like some of the numbers, but the NPS scores that you're reporting out are pretty impressive, because you've got an NPS score of like 74. Which is like not even head and shoulders. It's like a full kind of like body length kind of in front of kind of the life insurance average, which is about 30, but it puts you up there with people like the JetBlues and the Amazons of this kind of world. I mean, tell me about it. I mean, how did you get to there from where kind of like, give us a bit of background on the story to date, because that's, did you go from 0 to 74 straight away, or what was been the journey?
Right. Yeah. So as most things, it's probably best to start at the beginning, right? So, okay. So we're a life insurance startup. We're backed and owned by MassMutual. We launched 5 years ago when our CEO at the time was looking at coverage for himself to protect his growing family. And after trying to go through the traditional route, he quickly learned that buying life insurance is a complicated and pretty intimidating process, and really not at all made for busy parents like himself. So, as most great ideas do, they start with kind of a life experience and go from there. And he set out to change that and improve that. So that's kind of where we came from. I would also say that, certainly for us, I think one of the big things that we see that helps to drive that NPS score is again, it comes down to brand and CX and communication. And
Right.
Even if we throw the numbers out, right, with every NPS score, you always, one of the questions you ask is, what is one thing this company does really well? And more than half those responses are around, I love their brand. I love the experience. I love the way they communicate with me. And it sounds like it's coming from a friend, and they explain things in a simple way. And really, that's kind of what we're looking to do.
I mean, which is because I got a chance to see some of your kind of materials, and we'll talk about some of them in a bit more detail later. But it's like, it's quite colourful, and there's lots of pictures, and it just sort of feels different. And I guess that's the point, because if you're in life insurance, then it's all about how you feel, right?
Right.
And then sort of that sort of juxtaposition between feeling bad because somebody's passed away and having to sort all that sort of stuff, but being kind of feeling fine that in the knowledge that your family's covered, or you're covered, and everything else. But also the journey towards that and in and around that doesn't need to be heavy in many ways. And I guess the brand reflects that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's about thinking about it. We like to say, people they're not policy numbers, they're policy holders, and we treat them as such. And I think sometimes there's especially in the insurance industry, right, you can really get down to the numbers of things, but these are people and their lives. And when you focus on that, it kind of, the rest sort of falls into place, right? It illuminates how you should approach this stuff. And
so you say, I mean, you describe yourself as like a startup, or a startup that's starting to, if you like, to scale up, but you're backed by a large insurer. I mean, actually, are you a spin out, or are you a startup that's been backed by a large insurer? And how has that helped or hindered, or both, or a bit of both?
No, it's helped for sure. I mean, it's absolutely one of our key value propositions, right? So with Haven Life, we get to kind of straddle both lines of the fence, provide the best of kind of both worlds, right? So being backed by a large insurer, it really gives us the freedom to innovate quickly. Yet at the same time, we still provide the security that is really essential with life insurance. This is a product and a promise that a consumer, needs to count on you for 20, 30 years to take care of their loved one, the unexpected. So, it's something that really allows us to kind of succeed how we do. And, we like to kind of message to policyholders that, we have your back and Mass Mutual has ours. That's sort of how we position it.
And so we talk about making the brand different and the look and feel. And so it's all very well talking about the look and feel on an audio program. It's I think what would be useful to do is to maybe explore a couple of things that you've done that sort of make that experience a bit different, just because they're just, they're not, some of them are unusual, some of them are just not common in many ways. And so I just wanted to kind of understand a bit more about that. So first of all, the first thing I wanted to do, because it's becoming a thing that I see more and more companies starting to do things with, particularly in this digital age, and that's around handwritten cards. Because it's almost like it becomes like, I don't know what it is. It's like there's some sort of standout thing around a handwritten card and what it means, and so on and so forth. So can you tell me about what you do and how you do it, and also kind of who does it as well? Because as you grow, that's going to become a bigger and bigger undertaking. And so how are you going to manage that as you grow?
Yeah, so I'd love to talk about things. It's one of my favorite initiatives we've going right now. So, our brand team, we were really trying to think of a way that we could authentically welcome new policyholders into our community and introduce them to the type of brand and sort of CX they can expect over the next, again, 20 or 30 years. And like you had alluded to, we've seen other brands do the welcome cards, and we think they're effective, but we want to say, so like, what could be the Haven Life take on a welcome card? And, so we had this idea to, we have such a diverse and unique team here of over 200 employees. And we want to kind of engage everyone to sort of welcome people into the fold, policyholders in the fold. So we shared the idea of the welcome cards, these handwritten cards with our team. And we just sort of kind of organically left stacks of them around the office and, in the break room, by the entryway, in conference rooms, and just wanted to sort of see what would happen. We gave them kind of loose guidelines and said, be yourself. And we weren't sure what to expect. And sure enough, organically, team members started to take the cards, and they would sort of organize little writing groups over their lunch breaks, and would even bring some home to like have their kids color on. And the end results were really, really great and really true to Haven Life, and that's what we loved. So, we end up with these unique, thoughtful, and kind of quirky cards that both reflect us as individuals, and they really become these kind of one-of-a-kind keepsakes for policyholders.
Right.
So it's been a great way to humanize our brand and remind customers that we're in this together. In terms of how we scale, because that is definitely something that we need to consider is, we've built up a really large kind of repository now of these cards, and we'll definitely think about reproducing kind of the best ones. One that I love is we have a coworker who's obsessed with crossword puzzles, and she actually created a Haven Life themed crossword on the card, which is amazing.
Wow, it's like a unique piece of artwork.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we do have some good artists here have drawn on them too. So some of those cards we will hold over and reproduce them. And,
right.
And when it gets to the point where, we find scale has really, outpaced the speed we can create the cards, or we get particularly busy at work and we just can't get to the cards, then we'll have a sort of these reproduction cards that we can go to.
Okay. I mean, have you kind of gone, have you also added additional kind of incentives and do that and to get people to participate? I mean, like competitions and things, or is it just been left them around?
No. So you'd be surprised how much motivation pizza can get you.
Yeah.
You tell someone, the floor with the most cards gets pizza this Friday, and you won't believe how many cards you'll get.
Yeah, I mean, so I know that if you think about kind of relationships and think about the psychology of kind of relationships, there's a common thing that says, first impressions matter, and I can see how the handwritten cards create a really good first impression. Mm-hmm. And then the whole sort of thing about last impressions actually matter just as much, although it doesn't get as much kind of a focus. But that becomes a problem actually when you're thinking about, if you like, products and services like life insurance. It can often just seem like there's the start and then there's the end, and there's sort of nothing in between, as it were, other than a bill or like a transfer from my account into your account, as it were. But that you're not satisfied with that sort of. You've kind of done. You want to do something which actually maintains the relationship, maintains that sort of connection on a monthly basis, and that's sort of quite hard when you're dealing with life insurance, particularly in terms of the subject matter that you're dealing with. It's insurance about your life. So tell me about what you've done there and how you've done that, because I think that's kind of interesting, and there's probably lessons that other people can learn about that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, even in the earliest days, we identified one of the big areas of opportunity for improvement in terms of CX in the industry was that post-purchasing experience, right? There's research numbers out there that show that, the majority of life insurance policyholders don't even know the name of their insurance provider. And when you think about, this is a brand relationship that can span several decades and deals with protecting your family. That really felt like there was a big gap there. And we knew that, if our mission is to make life less hard and make people feel good about life insurance, that there was a lot we could provide in terms of meaningful value and relationship building during that post-purchase period. So in August of 2018, we launched something called Haven Life Plus, which is a rider to our policy. A rider is industry term for think like a bonus feature. Right. Maybe a closer proxy might be like your credit card perks that you get.
Yeah.
And really, this is a way for us to provide additional services to policyholders at no cost or discount that, make their life less hard and provide value while they're alive for them and their families. So some of the services we have on there now, we have a digital will, an online vault. We have an award-winning fitness app, another app that helps actually cure the symptoms associated with jet lag. And the way we kind of determine what services to add is, we will survey our policyholders and ask them directly, what are the type of things that could help, unburden you and your family? How can we provide more value to you? And then we use those results to directly drive our strategy and decision making. So yes, it's important for the brands and partners we bring on to be aligned with our mission, but really it's a very customer-driven program. And, we've seen great engagement and response to that so far. So something we're proud of, and we're going to continue to innovate on and grow.
And what's curious to me, because there's something else I want to ask you about, because you're as you say, you're innovating and getting creative about all sorts of different kind of elements. I mean, but also kind of what's fascinating to me is because life insurance is traditionally a very conservative or very traditional industry.
Right.
Have you ever kind of like tried stuff that's sort of just not worked, and you've gone, oh, that didn't work, and we just pulled it? Because that feels to me, from a cultural perspective, kind of hard thing to do or to take.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you one example, and I just caveat by saying, like, I think in any industry, with any CX, it's important to be willing to kind of try and fail and learn from it, and you really need to be open to, sometimes failure is perfectly okay and a natural part of the creative process. One example that I can give, that I would not say it's a failure, I think we approached it incorrectly, is that we, at one point we actually had we were doing a tactic where after an applicant would submit an application, we would take some of the non-personally identifiable information from that application. We partnered with a company that could create real-time dynamic videos. We would use some information like occupation, city they were from, and maybe their first name to create in real time a dynamic video that looked like a news report. Sure. That basically said, "Will Adrian purchase life insurance?"
Right.
And they would get it in their email, and you know what? And at the time, we treated it like more of a direct response tactic. We said, like, you'll see this video and you'll want to go ahead and complete your purchasing process. But when in actuality, it's probably more like a brand moment, right? And maybe should have been further up funnel than at that stage. So, like I said, not a failure, but it's more about being honest and trying to, be very actionable in sort of what you take away from the things you do.
Okay. But then the thing I wanted, so thank you for sharing that. I mean, sometimes the failures are the failures or the lessons or the learnings and things, or the things that didn't necessarily kind of go as well as you would like, are sometimes the hardest things to talk about. But actually, the thing I wanted to finish on in terms of this particular kind of bit is, like, you have to totally explain to me how you've combined your annual report with magic tricks and a deck of cards, because I'm a bit like, what? So please explain to me kind of like how those two things go together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people are saying, why did my life insurance send me a deck of cards? So, so the deck of cards were attached to our annual report. The annual report is something that we do every year. When you hear annual report, you probably think, all right, this is the end of year kind of company reporting out their business figures and their sales projections, but we treat it totally differently. For us, it's an opportunity to hear from our community, our policyholders, about what they accomplished, and then hero that through this very branded, beautiful report. So the responses we get are always incredible, but this year, as we were going through the responses, we kept saying, this is like magical. How do people do this? This is like unbelievable. So this word magic kept coming up. And we thought, what's something that we could connect to this annual report that would sort of convey magic, right? And that's where we land on this custom deck of playing cards. So we created a deck of playing cards that we packaged with a magic trick that, one of our coworkers learned from his grandfather, and we passed it on to our policyholders. And the idea being that the responses to this report were so inspiring and so magical that, here's a deck of cards and a trick to help you carry over some of that magic to 2019, from 2019 into 2020. We've, the report went out about a week ago. We've already received emails from policyholders saying, this is amazing, we love it. So something that we as a team really look forward to doing. And it's a great way for us to kind of, we like to say, share the numbers that really matter. So that's our policyholders' accomplishments.
Cool. Thank you for that. I mean, so those are things that are also really, I find them really interesting, and it shows you kind of what you can do, and also shows you kind of how people are innovating, I guess, in more traditional sort of like spaces. But like I said to you, like I sort of was talking about before, we talked about how relationships, it's like first impressions but also kind of last impressions kind of matter. And one of the things I'm aware of is that one of the worst moments one of the worst moments kind of ever, but particularly in the life insurance business, is when somebody passes away and a relative or loved one has to make a claim. Because I know from my own understanding is that whole making a claim process can be not the best sometimes for loved ones, and I understand it from a avoidance of fraud and all this sort of all those sort of issues. But have you been innovating around that area as well?
It's interesting. I think when we say innovation, we often think like tech, right? Like what can we do around tech? But
sure.
I think for us, especially when it comes to the claims part of the process, the innovation area is really focused around comfort, simplicity, and compassion, right? So,
right.
Yes, it's important to be fast. We aim to get the path as quickly as possible. We know that it's a very stressful time. They're grieving, and really it's about, being present and being, great communicators and being there for them is really innovation enough, right? So, so for a digital company, it's probably not as digital as you expect, but, I think really it's about, providing support for them. And if I could, we got a note late last year from a beneficiary that my team will often kind of reference when we're thinking about these things. And it read, I've received the life insurance proceeds from my wife's policy, and I want to wholeheartedly thank you for your kindness, compassion, and expedience with this. Nothing can replace my wonderful wife of almost 40 years. This check will make life easier to navigate and give me a sense of security I've not otherwise had. So again, that's really what it's all about. It's not for us about like, how can we remove the human process from here and get the payout as quick as possible and move on. It's like, we want to be there for the process whenever they need.
Awesome. Thank you. So you've kind of you've gone through this kind of like process of around sort of innovating in a what is quite a traditional sort of like space. I mean, if I was to ask you to pass on some advice to somebody, a leader in another organization that's in maybe a similar, similarly more traditional industry, how could they benefit from your experience, and they could benefit from your experience? What would be your best advice? I mean, if they said, I want to try and add that sort of flavor, that sort of creativity, or a little bit of that innovation into our mix, Adam, what would be your best advice to them?
Yeah, I have to say, the more confidence that you can build and instill in the customer, I think the better and more efficient the experience will be. Optimizing CTA buttons and shortening flows, you can do that all day, and that's important. But I think the most effective way to get someone to engage with your brand on a consistent basis is to provide them with the tools that they need to be successful kind of on their own. To be able to empower the customer to drive their own journey, I think will result in the best, in the highest NPS scores or the most efficient placements, whatever your goals are. I think that's how you do it.
Right. And that sort of process, I mean, there's like, if I could ask him, he's like, how did you go about sort of almost like building that understanding, that confidence in kind of your understanding of the customers? Was that just completely research and data driven, or was it actually, we need to get out and just talk to people, like lots of them?
Yeah, I mean, research definitely helps. There's no such thing as too much research, so that's definitely part of it. To me, it's about kind of being empathetic for the needs of your customers, putting yourself in your customer's shoes. Easier said than done, but one of our kind of brand principles is trying to always respect the customer's need and time. Be there for as much as you need, but no longer. Say what you need to say, but in the amount of words you need to say it in, and don't measure your CX and how fast you get someone from point A to point B. It's really how, like I said, how confidently you can get them from point A to point B.
Right. And so, Adam, what's next for Haven Life, apart from obviously world domination in the life insurance industry? I mean, what are the big kind of key challenges for you guys ahead? Experience and stuff.
Sure. I think the key challenges, and I think this is not just for us in the insurance industry, but really across any industry, right, is that balance between advancing on-demand solutions and automation without losing the real human side, which is very important for us, right? It's important, right, because the modern customer wants that fast online experience. But to me, it's important that we don't cut corners where a positive experience matters most.
Right. And how are you how are you striking that kind of, that balance? Because I guess it's like you get to a point where, I mean, is it just digital only, and there's no like is there a phone option, and does it feel like there's demand for a phone option, or will that never happen?
No, yeah, I mean, previously we were one product focused, just our term product. Where part of our brand and overall strategy going forward is to be expanding to different products and different channels in order to be able to purchase this products. For us, it's about we want people from all markets, underserved, new markets, to be able to get the protection they want in the way they want it. So it's important to carry over that brand through all different channels. And I mean, I can tell you now, right? One of our biggest, value propositions and brand points is our customer support, and that can still be over phone or our live chat.
Right. Okay.
And we will constantly hear how friendly and knowledgeable and lovely our customer support is. And as I'm sure you know, that's not a given across all brands and industries.
No.
So that's a very important part for us to continue that customer centric focus.
Yeah. Brilliant. So, Adam, anything else you'd like to add? Because I'm conscious that we've had a bit of a rummage around of some of the stuff that you're doing. I mean, like, is there anything that you missed out, or you want to point out that you is part of an important part of Haven Life's story to date?
No, I mean, it's been great fun so far. So thanks for letting me kind of just ramble on and talk about all the great stuff we're doing.
It's cool. I mean, I would say to people, you should definitely go check out kind of Haven Life. I mean, even if you're not in the US, check out Haven Life's just website and their annual report and everything else, because it's properly fun, it's properly colourful, and I think it's just kind of cool. And you might get a lot of ideas about what they're doing.
Thank you very much for saying that, and I'd love to, if we can include the annual report URL maybe in the show notes for your listeners to check out. I think that's a great kind of brand intro to what we're doing over here.
Absolutely, I promise to do that. But
that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. So one final thing, Adam, that I've been doing at the end of all these interviews is like, as I explained to you sort of prior to us kind of starting, is I produced this book sort of middle of last year, and called Punk CX. And what I've been doing is since then, on the back of these interviews, I've been asking people for their own sort of perception. It's like a word association game. So if I was to say to you, can you think of one or two words that you would use to describe a punk approach to CX? Or if I said punk CX, you would say,
Sure. If you said punk CX, which you did, I would say passion.
Fantastic. And if I said, what company or brand do you think epitomizes that sort of punk approach to, particularly in the customer experience space, what would you say?
Sure. There's this brand Bombas. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. They're a sock brand, right? So you'd say, socks. What's punk about that? But they have they poured so much authenticity and genuineness into their product, both in their mission, which is for every sock purchase, they donate a sock to homeless shelters.
Okay.
They did research to hear that that's the number one most requested item in homeless shelters. But just the design of the product, the way they market it, it gets you excited about socks, which I think is, from someone who works on getting people excited about life insurance, I can respect that for sure.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's interesting because I was. So, how do you spell them? The name?
BOMBAS.
Perfect. I will make sure we can find that, and also can put a link in the show notes as well.
Yeah,
what's fascinating is we seem to be kind of like having a series of brands mentioned that are associated with underwear, because in a previous interview, David Meerman Scott, I asked him about what brand, and he came up with this. He mentioned this brand called Me Undies, which is subscription underwear. I mean, who knew that you could get kind of underwear on subscription? But anyway, obviously you can. It's a subscription economy now. You can subscribe to pretty much anything, it seems.
Yeah.
Anyway, Adam, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to let you get back to your kind of day job. I just wanted to say, first of all, congratulations on, if you like, funking up the life insurance industry.
Thank you very much for trying
with Haven Life. Thank you for your time today, and also for sharing your story with us. That's been great.
It's been a pleasure. We'd be happy to do it again.
Well, that was cool. I hope you enjoyed it. I did, and I always do actually, because I always learn something new when I speak to some of these amazing people. And it's always something new that I can incorporate into my writing, speaking, workshops, and other sort of advisory work that I do. Now, if you're interested in learning about any of that sort of stuff, then you can find out more about how I work with clients over at adrianswinscoe.com. But one final thing before I go, please consider heading over to iTunes or Spotify or whichever podcast platform you choose to use, and do leave a review. Every little helps, as we say. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for listening, and do tune in again soon. All the very best. Cheers. Bye.